I was committing crime every single day.
I spent that whole sentence really preparing for a life of crime ahead.
I got arrested for attempted murder on a police officer's son.
I had one of my stepfathers try and shoot us with a shotgun.
Knowing who I am now,
Yeah.
finally, I know it wasn't me. That wasn't who I wanted to be. Yeah, I started getting in trouble at an early age. I remember lying to the police about my age, and then all of a sudden, a couple of days or a week later, then I'd get a shout up the road from my dad because he had to come and take me back down the police station for another interview because I had to have an adult present.
Yeah.
I was always lying. So that, and I was very disruptive at school. I suffered bad with dyslexia when I was at school.
Right.
I didn't really learn how to read and write properly till I went to prison. And yes, I was always disruptive in the school. I was always getting thrown out. I was thrown out of the lunch. I wasn't allowed in my junior school during the lunch hour. One of my neighbours had to come and pick me up, and me and my best friend, because I was just so disruptive in school because I couldn't learn.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's 30 children in a class.
Yeah.
No one, I wanted one-to-one attention, didn't I? I needed it, but and it wasn't recognised then, was it?
Yeah. No.
And they just thought I was a disruptive little shit, really.
Yeah.
You know.
So how does that make you feel then? What sort of
really bad, and that's why I think I suffered badly with shyness and that, you know, because I was an embarrassment. Anyone tried to embarrass me, I used to lash out. I mean, I've hit teachers around the head with tape recorders for embarrassing me or running my parents down. And yeah, it affected me bad growing up, you know. And as I say, then when I went to senior school, I was just truanting from day dot.
Yeah.
Like, because I was always hanging about with the older boys from my estate and that, they was all in the 4th and 5th year. Like they done their school near enough, but I was always with the older lads. So I was truanting from the day dot. So my senior school, I was at school for 7.5 weeks, the first school, and got thrown out for 7.5 months.
right?
Then I went to another school, and I was in this about 7 months, and then got thrown out for another year. So like from the 5 years of my schooling, I'd probably done 2 years of that at schooling. Then I went to an IT centre, and I ended up getting thrown out of that and all eventually.
What's an IT centre?
Intuition centre.
Right.
It's for people with bad behaviour or learning difficulties. And we used to just try and break into the teachers had like a common room upstairs, and we used to just try and break into there, nick their coffee and their cigarettes and barricade the doors up with the sofas. And then like one day we was on the roof throwing slates at the teachers and that. So we was little shits anyway from an early age. And as I say, from as long as I can remember, I was always getting clumped off my dad when he come back home, because my dad was a long distance lorry driver.
Right.
So from Sunday night, Monday morning till Thursday, he was away, and like I used to do what I wanted with my mum, but then obviously she'd tell him all the stuff I'd got up to, and I'd be getting obviously a clout, which you did in them days, didn't you? I still remember it. That's like trauma to me, because it didn't matter if we was around family's house in East London, or which we used to spend most weekends. He would embarrass me in front of everyone by pulling me towards him, bending me over his knee, taking my pants down, but like, it felt like it was all in slow motion.
Yeah.
And I'd be screaming and crying, but he'd still whack the arse out of me, you know?
Seems like that's quite like a theme with you, this sort of fear of being embarrassed.
Yeah, and in the end, even then, like my dad hated drinking. He was like into bodybuilding and keeping fit. He smoked though, but he didn't drink. And any time I'd come home tipsy or whatever, then I'd get a beating. But sometimes I used to do it deliberately.
Right.
And I'd walk the way where he'd see me staggering past the house, you know. And then when he clumped me in front of people, I'd get up and say, "Is that it? Is that all you got?" And
So
obviously,
why were you? What do you think as a young fella you were trying to achieve by sort of trying to put yourself in that position and actually?
it was like just some attention. If it was bad attention or good attention, or good, it was like I was craving it off my dad. And I'll never forget, like through my whole life, all I wanted my dad to say is that he loved me, and he never cuddled me or never loved me. Like never said it anyway. Like now we have quite a good relationship, but we didn't speak for 11 years.
Wow.
And I've only started speaking like the last year and a half. But yeah, that's one thing I always said to everyone. Why didn't he just cuddle me and say he loved me, you know? That's all I was trying to crave off him, and I never got it. I probably still won't get it, you know?
It's quite a generational thing, that, isn't it?
And then like when I obviously went through the program and stuff, then I realised like it might not have been his fault in a way, because of the way he was brought up, you know, and he was brought up by his stepdad, who beat the life out of all of them, and his mother, and that he sees his mother getting beaten up bad, and you know, so I sort of took half of the blame myself in a way, because you have to see your part in it, don't you? And as I say, sometimes I would create trouble just so I'd get that attention, whether it was a clout around the ear or smacked ass or whatever. It was just, I didn't change because of it. I didn't get any better. I got worse, if anything. So I'm not too sure why I did, you know, because obviously I was scared shitless of him in a way. But as I say, it was just any attention was some attention that I needed, sort of thing. And
is there anything that you recognise in that?
Oh yeah, certainly. You know, trauma. And you know, the situation in my home, domestic violence, and the fact I didn't then like being shamed, and that was a massive trigger for me. And I reacted with violence every single time that someone ever tried to shame or embarrass me. So certainly, a lot of the things I can identify with, definitely.
Today's episode is brought to you in association with Practice Plus Group, providing quality healthcare in secure settings.
So Billy, when was the first time that you got in trouble with the law? What happened?
Well, the first ever time, there was loads of us all going to a place in Egham, Surrey, where they had a big totem pole. It was a massive park. I can't remember. It was right by one of the famous golf courses. But we went to go into like a restaurant bar thing to only get a Coke and that. It was only 17, 18. A few of us drove. And they wouldn't let us in because it was all probably rowdy or whatever. So we ended up kicking the cars in the car park for some reason. I don't know why. It was crazy to look back and think that. But so we got arrested.
So just to take you back. So what? I mean, you say that quite casually. We just ended up kicking the cars in the car park
because they wouldn't let us in.
Right.
But yeah, so we loads of us done it. And then we ended up going in, hiding up trees, and that the police was just waiting outside. They knew we was in certain cars. So they just stayed there, and we waited up the tree till about 3 o'clock in the morning, drove out, obviously only got a mile down the road, got swarmed by the police. I was probably about 14 then, that was, probably about 14. And obviously went into Egham police station, blagged them that I was 17 or 18, well, I think it was 17 at the time. I'm sure I said I was 17. And obviously got away, got on bail. But then a week later, I heard my dad calling up the road, and I thought, oh, here we go. What have I done? That's all it was all the time, is what have I done this time? Because I was always up to no good for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, when I was 15, I was like, my typical Friday, I'd get up in the morning, my neighbour would come in, like we'd have breakfast together. He always used to come in my house for breakfast because it was like open house then. You didn't have like everyone had keys in the door, didn't they? You didn't lock your doors. And then I'd walk up the road, around the corner, get into my little Mini. And I mean, this is like 14, 15. Then I'd drive to school.
Right.
Get up to no good at school all day. And then I'd drive home, have me food, down the pub, and then drive to Camden Palais, take copious amounts of ecstasy, and then drive home after.
Yeah.
And that's at 15 years old.
Yeah, 14,
15, yeah. Well, I had 3 cars by the time I was 15. An old Mark II Cortina, a Mini and a Capri. Because all my older friends, obviously, like I said, I'm always with older people. And like, I don't know why, they always used to take me under their wing, but it was because of who my family was at that time, you know?
Yeah.
My family was sort of quite big people around the manor, and everyone wanted to be like in with my dad, sort of thing. So they sort of took his boy under the wing.
When did you notice that it was getting a little bit more serious? Because I mean, a lot of people are going to say, smashing a car up in a car park, that's a pretty serious thing, and so on and so forth. But when you look back, was there a moment when you think, that's when I was kind of maybe doomed even after that point? That's when it all started to go wrong.
Not really, because like I said, I was brought up with quite a criminal family, so that was my life. And obviously when you're living that life, an occupational hazard is probably going to prison now and again. But I didn't actually go. I went to prison the first time I ever went to prison. Well, I'll tell a lie, sorry, I'll go back 2 weeks before my 16th birthday. I took ecstasy to Spain and got nicked going through the airport with my mate. But, and then obviously my dad was there at the time, so I ended up spending 4 days in Malaga prison until my dad paid the money to bail me out. So I thought there was a problem then, and I've like been 16 and been in a man's jail. But that frightened me a little bit, and I never really, well, even though I was always up to no good, I never ever got hardly arrested, you know. People used to nickname me Golden Balls around the area because everything I'd done I always seemed to get away with, and I always seemed to come out smelling the roses. I used to fall in a lot of crap and come out smelling the roses when I was younger. So when it really seriously went wrong was obviously when I was taking loads of drugs and drinking and obviously waking up in police cells, not even knowing how I got there most of the time. But as I say, it was part of my life. I was brought up in that world, like in a criminal world. All my family, they're still like it. You know, my granddad was his step-granddad, but he was my granddad because he was married to my nan, obviously, my whole life. So, and my nan died still married to him, sort of thing. So, and as I say, that was just part and parcel of all my dad's side. All my mum's side come from Teddington. Why Teddington Studios and that, and they're sort of normal working people, but all my dad's side are from East London, and they're not normal working people.
Right.
They're all up to, well, they tell a lie. I mean, my granddad and my uncle, they own a clothing company and that, so they're mega rich now, but obviously back in the day, they were naughty people, you know, and
making ends meet, however.
Yeah, however it was, I suppose, then in them days, you know. And as I say, all my cousins, everyone was up to it up there anyway. In East London, they was all either selling drugs or robbing things and lorries and doing jump ups or armed robberies. Or I never really got into that because I didn't really need to. Because years ago, like my uncle, where he owned that clothing company, he had one machine that he had just for doing snidey stuff.
All right, just for the benefit of anybody who doesn't know what snidey stuff is, that would be like Hugo Boss as opposed to Hugo Boss.
Yeah, all the Ralph Lauren, all the moody Ralph Lauren.
Ralph Lauren.
Yeah, well, that's what it's called, Ralph Lauren, isn't it?
Yeah, or Rolf if you make the snidey version.
Yeah, but as I say, so I was selling that at a young age, like 15 years old, in the boot of a car. I was going around to all the pubs, selling all the stuff, and plus my dad's haulage company worked out of Heathrow Airport. So I used to get crates of Timberland shoes, crates of skateboards. Yeah. We had the whole of the Wimbledon ball girls and ball boys tops. All that was all Hugo Boss, but we had everything.
Allegedly.
Yeah. That was when I was probably about 17. So that was 33 years ago, nearly. You know.
So that sort of, you know, living on the outskirts of legality was pretty much normal for you.
It was normal for me, that's what I was brought up in, you know. As I say, every morning I'd wake up, there'd be all the local villains sitting in my front room. And every time I come home, sometimes I'd come home and the police would be answering my doors, like where they're, you know, raiding my house for certain things. So, as I say, it weren't that I wanted to choose that lifestyle, and looking back, I wish I'd never had that lifestyle, really, you know, because I wasn't that type of person. And I think that made me drink a lot and take drugs because I was trying to be someone I wasn't.
Got you.
So when I took them drugs, I felt like I was that lunatic, like big I am Billy, like, and it wasn't me. I was the quiet, laid back, quite a nice young man, really.
Yeah.
But as I say, that's, you know, before I met my wife when I was 36 or so, I'd never even slept with a woman sober, ever.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd been in relationships from 13 to 21, one of them.
Yeah.
And then from 22 to 27, I've been in long relationships all my life, but never ever slept with someone sober until I was 36 or something like that, 37.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Crazy, isn't it? Mad, isn't it?
Gary, what was your life like around the same age as that sort of 14, 15, 16, 17? What was in your circle then? What was happening?
Well, a bit of a dual existence, really. I think, it was crazy in one way. I was trying to be normal, I guess, like other young lads, but I was already leaps ahead into nefarious activity. So, you know, involved in armed robberies, a lot of fighting. A lot of my age group came to me to help them with their problems. An extended family that you didn't know you were related to, and you go on fighting for them, and again getting your self-esteem from there. So then, and the drift into drugs for me was into LSD, you know, the famous acid house thing.
Back into the 80s, early 90s.
And they're getting into and that turned us onto a lot of music and poetry and stuff, and expanded me consciousness at the time. Then ecstasy and all of that. But the older villains always said to me, "Stay away from heroin, and you can't trust anyone who takes heroin." And so all of this kind of mentorship given from them, we tended to follow to the letter. So I was very lucky in that I avoided. I could have died on the other substances, of course, but I avoided heroin and stuff like that because of what the older criminals would say to us, you know. So getting involved in ram raiding, the big phenomenon there, allegedly, and just the progression into heavier and heavier crime, like armed robbery, and what becomes the norm for you, just, you talk about violence and violent acts you'd committed on people. And I often say if we were in a restaurant doing that and surrounded by normal people, we would be only people left. But everyone spoke like that in our culture. That's what it was. What the graft you were doing, what violence had happened, who was doing what. It was all based around crime. And normal relationships, I was inherently a liar. I couldn't have a normal relationship with a woman or anybody outside of our culture, because all of them were just targets to us.
So do you think is there anything, Gary, in this ironically afraid to show your vulnerability to people?
Indeed. Well, I mean, so I think seeing domestic violence in the home, I had a stepfather hang himself in front of us. I had one of my stepfathers try and shoot us with a shotgun when I was in the bath. And again, that was laughed off, but obviously it's traumatising you. And the more you're traumatised and dehumanised, the more you're putting a front on to be able to kind of deal with it and try to rationalise it if something like that can ever be rationalised. So, but a lot of fear deep down that was unrecognised, and I certainly didn't want to admit to being afraid. And that was what, getting into boxing and fighting and all that was about, to show the world that I wasn't afraid, when really deep down I was very, very afraid.
Yeah. And would you agree with that? Was fear a big part of your life?
1,000,000%. In every aspect of my life, I was fearful of everything. Absolutely everything. And I put on a major front to try and mask it. But it just, I don't know how to explain it, but it ruins you really, doesn't it? Because you're just trying to be someone you're not, really. And I never developed properly as a young child, I don't think. I think I was too thrust into, I think I skipped out on most of my childhood, because of, as I say, the people was always trying to impress my father, so they was always taking me under their wing and doing this. But as I say, which meant I was always with people 5-6 years older than me,
Right.
Even when I got arrested in Spain, the bloke with me, my best friend, he was like 21, and I was just 2 weeks from my 16th birthday. So it's a big difference, isn't it? And,
it is, yeah.
And as I say, I missed out a lot, I think, because of that, because of who my family was,
And do you think because you were struggling a bit with the relationship with your father, that perhaps you were looking to find that relationship with other people and anybody who just happened to...
Probably. And when someone older takes you under their wing, and they treat you like a little son, really, in a way, because everyone looked after me and everyone gave me everything I wanted, sort of thing. I was, and people think because you got everything, like material things, your life's good, don't they? When they see me with brand new motorbikes, I had all the best clothes, all the best everything. But my family was so dysfunctional, really. Like half of the week, my dad weren't there, and then so it was like I was living two lives all my life, because half of the week I could do exactly what I wanted, come in when I wanted, have a drink if I wanted, just do whatever I wanted to do. But then when my dad would come home, it was like being in an army barracks. Everything had to be militant. Even all the boys around the area knew what time I had to be and would walk me home for that time.
Right.
So they didn't upset him.
Quite a presence in the community, your dad, I'm getting the impression.
Big time. I don't like to admit it in a way. And as I say, I wish it wasn't my lifestyle. But him and my granddad and my uncles and all that, they're like well known all over London. Well, my granddad and that's known all over the world, really,
So tell me about the first time you were either on remand or sentenced to a custodial.
My first ever sentence was, what it was, a friend of mine was living above a hairdresser's, and I went round there Christmas time to see him, because I wasn't into all that stuff anyway, because I was always ducking and diving and selling drugs or selling hooky clothes, or always like ducking and diving. I didn't need to go out and steal off people. But one day I went to knock for him in the shop, and he wasn't there, and the shop was shut. It was in the evening time, and the window was open, and there was a big jar of money there and a bottle of champagne. So I just didn't think. I just went through the window, walked in there, obviously but being me, I just took the keys for the shop, and I went down to the pub in Whitton. I still remember everything about it. And I'll give it to some bloke in the pub. And he went and stripped the whole shop out, like every shampoo, And obviously, because my fingers was on it where I got into the window, I got done for burglary. But because I wouldn't accept it was me, I ended up not turning up for 2 years, and I was just always on the run. And then I ended up getting 4 months for that.
Right.
In the end, when they finally got me to court 2 years later, I got 4 months in Wandsworth prison. I was there for like 8 weeks. I got a cleaning job, and it was like you only had showers once a week. You had no TVs and that. But yeah, I thought that was my experience. That's it. I've done with that now, and I won't be going again.
Right. So in a way, you actually believed that was probably the end of your...
End of it. I knew I was going to get an experience in jail, and I thought this is quite a nice one, really. A little 8-week sentence. I got a cleaning job because straight away I was putting in apps. Like, I wouldn't need to work voluntary. I need to work voluntary, just get me out of my cell, because I wasn't used to it, sort of thing. And obviously I got a cleaning job doing all the bed rolls and stuff like that. And as I say, I thought that was it then. I won't be going back to jail again. But obviously... A lot more to come after that, but I mean, we'll get to that bit, I suppose, won't we?
Yeah. So, Gary, how was your first sentence then?
Matt, to be honest, it was a university of crime for me, and people did try to make interventions.
Right.
Prison officers, some good prison officers.
Yeah.
Educational workers, counsellors. But I was too filled with fear and kind of bravado to kind of accept any of that help. So that I spent that whole sentence really preparing for a life of crime ahead. And if anything, the experience in the Young Offenders Institution made us even more violent. I was more well connected, and so when I was released back onto the street, I was a worse criminal than ever.
I'm just thinking back to a few things that we've talked about already, and it seems to me that role models are massively important, especially to young men.
100%, yeah.
Who were the role models that you were looking up to? And
I was looking up to them all the time. When I had my dad, and as I say, my dad was like a big, powerful man as well, and he was, known around the manor as being like one of the hardest men. He used to sort out a lot of problems for a lot of people. They used to come to him, and when my dad turned up, people listened and done what they was told, sort of thing. Really, and that's not trying to big him up.
Yeah.
Because he was what he was. I've seen him go on to like complete travellers' sites and say, "You boys got to go, all of you," and he's cleared the whole site. So that's a big powerful man on your own.
Power for somebody to wield, and you mentioned your grandfather as well. So that was his dad.
No, he was brought up by him.
Got you.
He didn't know his dad until later on, until like I was probably about 10 or something like that. So his dad split up with his mum. Then his mum married this certain individual, and my dad was brought up with him from a young age all the way until till his 20s or whatever like that. He was still, as I say, that's all I remember. I remember in like the 80s going up to East London to my nan's and that, and then my granddad pulling up in brand new American cars, and so I thought he's obviously someone a bit special, because hardly no one had cars then. Really, not many, not good cars or brand new cars.
Yeah.
And even my dad said like we was probably the first people down the street to get a car, first people to get a TV. So he was, and so.
Would you be comfortable to tell us who you can?
His name's Micky Fawcett.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and he's got a book out called The Crazy Days. He was part of the Krays firm, the Ronnie and Reggie Krays. So he was part of it. So that's the way my dad was brought up, see?
Yeah.
So, and then when my dad moved, my dad met my mum from the other side of London. Yeah. But because he was still connected to East London, he sort of ended up taking over Southwest London, really. And he run all the drugs and stuff like that. And as I say, any violence that needed to be done, he didn't really do that much, but he didn't need to, sort of thing. He just, when someone knew Tony was on your back, then you do as you're told, sort of thing, because you're going to get whatever.
Is that, so obviously when you've had complicated lives like you fellas have, there'll be shame, there'll be guilt, there'll be stigma. Are you at a stage where you get any comfort from looking back at that and being able to say, literally, that, I didn't stand a chance, really?
I get embarrassed a lot, and I don't even share a lot. And when people ask me to share in meetings and that, I'm scared of sharing, because I don't want people to think that I'm trying to boast or big up.
Yeah.
Because, as I say, knowing who I am now, finally, I know it wasn't me. That wasn't who I wanted to be. Because of who the family was, I ended up getting with a lot of rich girls, who's normal girls, like solicitors and this and that. And I see the other side of life, because even though we come on the other side of the river, like on the other side was Richmond upon Thames.
Yeah.
So that's where like by the time I was 23, I was living in £1.5 million, not mine, but £1.5 million house, you know. So I see the other side and how the rich lived as well. And I knew I'd have rather had that life than the life I was living, sort of thing. But don't get me wrong, I loved my dad to pieces. And as I say, and obviously seeing all that went on, that's all I wanted to be. I mean, if a teacher would have asked me when I was 15, like what you wanted to be, I would have said a villain or a gangster or whatever. That was all that was programmed into my head, nothing else. And as I say, from an early age, I was selling things for my dad and going about and doing this and, so I see it all from an early age. Even he tried to hide the drugs from me till I was about 16, 17, and my girlfriend found out about the drugs before I did, because I went into the bath, we were sitting in the house, I went into the bath and my girlfriend was messing about with her pockets and a tiny little joint of cannabis fell out. And I think my dad was embarrassed at how small it was, because she said, I just see him walk out to the van like that and he'd come in with a massive lump and just give it to her. And that was the first ever time I knew that he was into drugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then obviously after...
I think that's the police coming for you now.
Yeah, allegedly.
I don't know if you'll be able to pick that up there on the mics, but that was quite a timely intervention there from the cops, wasn't it? Yeah. So, I mean, what I'm interested in is this notion of an inevitability. Do you think that's true? Do you think there was no chance that you were going to, at least straight away in your early 20s, end up going on and having what you would class as a normal life with a 9-to-5 job? And
no, I've never been in a 9-to-5 job until recently when I started doing work with Gary. That is, I mean, I did start a few apprenticeships and done a few apprenticeships when I was younger, like roofing, and I went to do anodizing and stuff, but never carried it out fully because I could go and earn unders and like when I was 15, 16, I never earned less than £1,000 a week doing hardly nothing. So why am I going to go and do a YTS scheme for £75 a week?
Yeah.
And I tried it, but obviously the lifestyle with the cars and the money, and like my granddad owned a few clubs up London, so I could go around all the clubs in London. I knew most of the doormen, I knew anyone who's anyone in London, I knew, sort of thing, through my granddad and stuff, my dad. So when you're younger and you got all the girls around you and you got the money and enough money that I wasn't scratching around for money. I never had to think, I need money to buy this. If I wanted something, I bought it, sort of thing, So that's quite attractive when you're a young kid and you don't know any better, do you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I never got properly reared up, really. I don't know. I never got sat down and spoke to about anything. It was just, I was going to be what I see, and like most people are products of their environment.
Yeah.
And that's what I was trying to be.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't that guy deep down, I masked it with a lot of drugs over the years, know, because when I'd had like cocaine or whatever, I was more of a lunatic than anybody, and too crazy, for my own good, like, really.
So where did we end up? Where I mean, I'm not. So let's not go to your lowest point as a human being just yet. But what was the bit where you went, oh, I'm really in the shit now?
I'll go first if you like. I think for me, one of my particularly low points, I was on remand for 5 Section 18s in an affair. And I went and obviously I met the solicitor within the prison and he went, look, you're going not guilty. And if you get a guilty, he's going to give you over 20 years today. So it was like a mandatory life sentence. And if you go not guilty, we can get you 16, now if you do the deal. And I went back to my cell, and I think I had a long, reflective, long, dark night of the soul, thinking, how have I ended up here? But it's really easy to see. I chose the path of crime and violence and negativity, and that was a moment for me where I thought, I'm right in it here. I went to court, I went not guilty, and I was quite rightly so found not guilty on a lot of that, and that just reinforced that, we go on with the show. But again, I still was involved deeper and deeper and deeper.
To give you a sense of almost invincibility.
Well, it's a cat and mouse game with the police and the crime thing. And I just thought, I've gotten out of that and I'm going to avoid that at all, because you never believe you're going to get caught. Because if you did, know for certain you were going to get caught. You'd have to be insane to continue the journey.
Yeah.
So you learn from that and you move on and you learn how to avoid it. So there were a lot of low points. And another big low point of mine I ended up injecting drugs. I was always really against intravenous kind of taking of drugs, and it was far away from the rave scene and festivals and taking LSD with your friends and, having Sgt. Pepper's on and all that wonderful spiritual stuff that, I'm not advocating taking drugs.
No.
Because I've had some terrible times taking drugs. I've had some wonderful times taking drugs. But I would never advise anyone to take them. But my low point, as well as looking at that 20 odd years, was I was injecting amphetamines, and I've been awake for, days and days and days and months across 10 months. And I was fit from the boxing. I went from 14.5 stone down to 11 stone.
Wow. And
I came round in a bedroom. I'm always reminded of Cream's song, The White Room. And I looked across the floor, and there was a young guy there injecting as well. I don't know how old he was. I don't know how I got there. And I just burst into tears. And I'd broken back into a needle box and used the needles. I didn't know who those needles were.
So you used needle box. You'd gone in that box to get needles out.
Yeah, I broke into it because obviously there wasn't a needle available. That there, when I look at that, it was probably as low as I've ever been in my life.
Wow.
Horrendous.
How about you, Billy?
Well, when I was 17, I got arrested for attempted murder on a police officer's son, which is obviously, and he was a neighbour of my friend's, like a few roads away, which was down to my friend anyway. He said to me, I've been having trouble with my neighbour coming at me. I didn't know who the bloke was. And I see him knock my best friend clean out. So obviously I just jumped all over him, and it went a bit messy. And then I went on the run for that for 2 years. And I got away with it in the end because the two main witnesses, one was in Israel in the kibbutz, and one was on a tour like the blokes get off at, and he couldn't remember nothing after that. He had a total memory loss. But I was looking at, but they said 8 years. That was my first offence. But as I say, I got luck would have it. Well, not luck would have it because I feel sorry for the man that I hurt, sort of thing, But I didn't end up going away from that. But my really low point was similar to Gary. Was when I had a heroin addict's uncle, and I'd said I'd never touch heroin. And like I knew, because I used to go fishing with him a lot, or we used to go all the old derelict houses in Richmond, Twickenham and that. We'd go in there, see if there's any old antique fireplaces and that. So I was always with him, and I see the state that he was in. I see my family helping him to go to rehab, do this, do that. And I used to say to him, why can't you just go 4 or 5 days, be ill and get it over and done with? And that come back to bite me in the arse big time. And yeah, so in the end, I ended up getting on heroin. But that was over like silliness, really, how I started. It was mad, and it was only because I started taking a lot of crack. And every time I went home, my girlfriend kept saying, you're on that bloody crack again. So the bloke I was serving it up to, he was washing it into the crack. I was giving him the cocaine. He was smoking the heroin. So I'd end up having a couple of lines of that one night, and I thought, God, this is nice. This just chills me out. So I'd get a 10 bag off him, but that'd last me a week because I'd only have like 2 lines. It'd just take me off the crack, and then I'd go home pretending nothing's happened after work. I was still doing bits of work, but no, I've never worked legal. It's always been cash in the hand. I've never ever worked like legal. And then one day I woke up, like it was about 3 or 4 months after I started taking it, and I woke up feeling ill, not knowing what it was. And my friend said, like, you're into withdrawals. I was going, no way, no way. And I ended up doing a £10 bag every day for a year. I woke up every day ill, and I thought, like, I'm in trouble here. And I couldn't get off it. I was trying to get off it. So that was like a really, really low point in my life. And then, yeah, I was like sitting in Devon. Everyone deserted me, sort of thing. I was in a flat on my own in Exeter, St David's. And I thought, like, no one wants to even talk to me now. No one wants to do nothing. And I still thought I looked all right. And I still had cars, vans and motorbikes. But obviously that soon dwindled down. And I ended up with nothing in the end. Nothing, just sitting in Devon on my own. And then I thought I'd come back to London to get away from it. I thought I'd go back down to all my pals and that. But it was obviously better gear down in London and cheaper. So I ended up with a worse habit.
Yeah.
And then that was, well, the rest is jails, 18, 20 years of jails every single year.
Yeah.
Well, out of 20 years addiction, like on the heroin and crack, just over 8 years I spent in jail out of that. Wow. Just over 20 years, I'd say, on the heroin and crack.
It's a big chunk of your life.
Big chunk of my life. And as I say, every time was just through being desperate. And as I say, I didn't want to go out and do what I was doing. Some of the things I'd done was I mean, I can tell you one thing now that I'd done that will haunt me probably for the rest of my life. I'd broke into this windmill place in Chelmsford in Essex, and it had all these charity boxes on the desk in there. And I even knew I was doing something really badly wrong, because when I picked them up to steal them, I've turned round and I'm cringing to myself like that. And then they're doing a police talk interview in the schools. They done it in my stepson's class, and it was me who come up, and they said, "Look, he thinks he's clever, he's laughing." But I weren't. I was cringing.
Oh, so they had you. So you were on CCTV,
and they went and done some talk into my stepson's school in his class.
Wow!
And he seen me come up on the telly.
And did he recognise you?
Oh, they all recognised me in the class. Everyone recognised it was me. Yeah.
Wow. How did that make you feel?
Oh, terrible. Absolutely terrible. It didn't stop me. I still carried on, and I still nicked more charity boxes after.
Yeah.
You know, so I went from having everything and having as much money as not like loads and loads of money, but you know, I could go and buy what I want, go on holiday when I want, just to do what I wanted, to nicking charity boxes. You know, but as I say, I couldn't get away from it either. I tried my hardest to fight it, and then I was like resigned to the fact that this is going to be my life, and I wanted to die. As simple as that. Like only 5 years ago, I'd done loads of Valium, loads of heroin and stuff, and I'd sat, this is on my 45th birthday, so nearly 5 years ago, I sat up a tree, tied a tow rope out my van around my neck, and just thought, I'm going to just crash out and hang myself, you know, and for some reason the drugs didn't work that night. And I was like more wide awake than I've ever been in my life, you know.
It's amazing.
But as I say, I couldn't fight it really for some reason, I don't know why. But I'd be off it for 6-8 weeks, and then I'll get back on it. There's that same revolving door. And as I say, I was in and out of jail just before I met Gary in jail. I got out on the 12th, December the 12th, and I was back in by January.
Yeah.
So that's how my life went for 20 years. I was in jail half of the year and out of jail. Not like for 6 months at a time, but I was doing 8 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 months. And then obviously I met Gary there, you know.
Yeah, so tell us about that then. So how did you two meet?
Go on, Carl.
I had the contract for 4 prisons across the northeast, and I was asked by commissioners to go into Home House to meet with prison inspectors. And the guys had been picked at random. And I went in and started delivering a programme, and, you know, I mean, I was supposed to meet a lady in the community 4 times, and I was unable to do that. And I mentioned that in the room, and I mentioned her name when Billy asked us, and it was actually Billy's wife, bizarrely. And the coincidence was...
Go back a little bit on that. So tell me about that. So what happened? So you were supposed to be helping someone in the community, but what, Billy wasn't turning up for meetings with you or something?
The kind of work that I do with people, often a lot of people will get in touch and say, can we have a cup of tea or coffee? I'd love to hear about what you do.
Yeah.
I'd love to tell you about what I do. And this person was a fellow professional, and sounded really interesting on the phone, but I had to let her down 3 times for different reasons. You know, stuff had happened at work. And the 4th time she was off to a funeral in Sunderland, and I said, look, I'm really sorry again. You know, you're not going to believe this, but I'm being asked to go into the prison and deliver off the subs bench, really, you know, 11th hour kind of stuff. And the officers had picked people at random within Home House to attend this programme. So I landed and started doing the work, and this guy in the room was particularly rude. So I started talking about one more victim in the community, which is what the work's all about, and helping people to really change their lives and to not go back into prison. So I went into one about that. And I said I was supposed to meet this lady, and I haven't been able to meet her 4 times. She's at her granddad's funeral in Sunderland. And Billy chirped up and said, can I ask what her name is? And I said her name. And he went, that's my wife. And I was like, wow, you know, the actual coincidence, you know, was amazing. And I'm all for, you know, everything for a reason and the tapestry of life.
Yeah.
And meeting Billy there has led to, you know, Billy working in the prisons with us and, you know, speaking at events around our supported housing provision. He actually came in as a tenant. And I'll be honest, when he first joined the provision, it was a bit tetchy between us. There was a bit of energy that we had to kind of resolve, and we did that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've got the utmost respect for him now. He's a really good friend of mine, you know, and a colleague.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah.
So tell us about the progression of that then. So you meet Gary for the first time.
I don't know, I sort of half clicked with him at first, and to be truthful, he inspired me big time. And I thought, like, you know, he's been there, he's done it, and look where he is now. And I just thought that man really inspires me. I just, like, you know, like no one's ever inspired me before. Like all the people I've been around some big proper people, like, you know, and no one ever touched me like Gary did. Like he just something, I don't know, the way he was talking, whatever it was, I can't put my finger to it, but I just thought I want a bit of that, you know. So when I got out, I kept in touch with Gary, and I was still living in Workington, and I was still up to no good. I was like on medication, still having a little dabble here and there, but doing better than I'd ever done. But I knew where it was going, and I was in like right bad way, really. And I thought, well, I need to try and get away from here, because I was ready to sort of try it again, and I thought this has got to be it now. So I kept in contact with Gary, kept phoning him up saying, can you get me over, can you get me over? And I mean, he did bend over backwards at first to get me over there, which he didn't have to. And he ended up, and I said, look, I've got nowhere to get over, I've got a push bike, and you know, that's it. I've got a settee in there, I've got a new washing machine, I've got a telly on the wall. I said, but I can't bring it. And I said, like, what do I need? He said, you don't need nothing, just bring your bags and come over and I'll do the rest for you. And that was on the 19th of December 2020. And he would come and pick me up at the station. I had my push bike with 2 big bags on each handlebar, and I ended up locking the bike up at the station, Durham station. And then obviously Gary took me into one of his houses, and then it wasn't efficient at first because I was banging to the meetings at first, and I couldn't get buses back. So I spoke to Gary about it, and he kindly moved me straight out of there into another place where I could get to everywhere on the buses and stuff like that. And for some reason, like I've never touched drugs since.
Do you think there was a moment where it clicked? I mean, do you remember a day where you went, oh, do you know what, I might be onto something here?
In a way, yes, but as I say, I'd always been like that. Like every time I'd got clean, I meant what I said. I meant I was never going to go back on drugs. I meant, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start working again and start trying to build up this and build up that. And as I say, 8, 10, 12 weeks later, I'd be using again. And then it, like, most of my uses always ended up in jail. It weren't like I'd use and then give up a few months later. The only reason I'd give up is because I ended up getting locked up and I couldn't use, sort of thing. If I didn't get locked up, then I'd have just carried on using. But as I say, he inspired me that much that I just wanted something that he had. Like I said to you, like, it's attraction rather than promotion, isn't it? He didn't tell me he's going to do this for me, he's going to do that for me. I just liked the way he was talking and liked what he stood for at the time. And it was nice to talk to someone that had been in the trenches the same as me and come out the other side, you know? So that's why, you know, I'm well up for doing the similar work to what Gary does, because obviously I've got photos of me like 8, 9 stone, you know, dripping wet. And obviously I've come a long way in the last few years anyway. You know, I train every day now. I'm going to be doing boxing with Gary and stuff. And I've never felt better on my whole life.
Just to jump in to promote yourself, he's been into the prisons working and speaking at huge events with the local authority around the housing provision and stuff. So really inspiring and I give people a guarantee in prison, if you write to me, I will personally write back to you.
Right.
So yeah, so I do that. And when we got the feedback from some of the groups Billy was on, it was wonderful feedback from the young guys saying I really connected with Billy and that had inspired them. So, you know, it's just great work. I'm very proud of you, honestly.
Yeah, and that's like what I was inspired by him, see, because he's told everyone what he was all about and where he'd got to. And as, like I said, it's attraction, isn't it? I was attracted to that, and I thought, like, you know, and it's like when people see my story and see me writ off, like, with photos, they think, well, if he can do it. And that's what one of the feedback was on the forum was like, oh, I'm glad he shared, because it makes me feel like anything's possible now.
So it's interesting because originally we started off with this notion that we were going to talk about the ripple effect, the negative effect into the community, but we're kind of...
I can give you plenty of that.
The ripple effect for me has always been a bomb blast, because it is literally, it doesn't gently come across, like when you're on the kayak, it doesn't gently, you know, ripple. It's a bomb blast and everyone gets caught in it.
Everyone, yeah.
All your loved ones, all the community, the wider community, the general public at large, you know, right down to government spending. It's huge, you know. You can imagine a 17-year crime spree and a 20-odd-year crime spree, the damage that's untold damage that was done. And I think all that's left, you know, if you want to, is just try to kind of accept, you can't apologise enough for what you've done. But again, saying sorry is just meaningless without positive action. So I think what you can do is stand up and be there for other people and try and help them to avoid the same mistakes you made, and help people to see that there is hope in the most desolate situation.
Yeah, it don't matter how low you get. You know, the lower you get, there's only one way to go in there. If you're willing to put that in, willing to put the work in, you know, and that's what you need to do. It's the same with relationships, training, recovery. You only get out what you put in.
Yeah.
And if you just want to sit there talking a load of crap, you're not going to get nowhere. It's about action, isn't it? And as I say, it doesn't matter if you're getting married to someone, training, fishing. You only get out what you put in, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cliches in recovery, but they're cliches for a reason. Do you know, things only become cliches because they are true. One of them is nothing changes if nothing changes.
Nothing changes, yeah.
Absolutely.
And like I said to Gary, you need to change one thing, and that's everything.
Yeah. That's interesting. So do you get any comfort then from, so obviously the 17 years and 20 years on the wrong side of the law have a massive...
I've been on the wrong side of the law since I was 12, 13.
Right, yeah.
But I mean, getting nicked regularly was 18 years. But I mean, I was committing crime every single day, but just not getting nicked for it because I wasn't a little junkie that needed to go and do something desperate.
Right, so you could be more
I was
measured.
always earning, and I was always ducking and diving, and I knew everyone all around London, so I was always earned money no matter what. I was like my dad said to me, I could put you on a desert island, mate, you'd survive. That's the way I was years ago but it's just connections, isn't it? It's just all the people you know. Someone asking for this. Oh, I know someone over in North London who's got that. That's what I was like, a middleman.
Yeah.
But because I knew so many people all around London, I could always put you in the right direction for something, you know? So that was my life, as I say, until I ended up getting on the heroin and stuff. I sold everything and sold everyone else's everything, really, and robbed every single day for that amount of time, nearly, unless I was in jail.
Yeah, and so do you recognise then that, you know, obviously those periods of time for both of you had a massive negative impact on the community as a whole, on your families in the area. Yeah. Do you recognise now that perhaps you're redressing some of that balance? Because the work you're doing right now, that's going to have a massive impact on the community, but in a positive way.
The way I look at it is, I won't swear, but the way I look at it is like them 20 years of like serious harm that I was causing everybody. Because as I say, like, before that, I was just ducking and diving, selling people things for cheap and that. So I wasn't like directly harming anybody. But then obviously it was from 31, that's when it all started bad. And as I say, from 31, I was just an absolute nightmare. Didn't speak to my daughter from the age of 5. Just started speaking to her now, even though we've fallen out a bit. But none of my family I didn't speak to for 11, 12 years. None of my family at all. I just went missing, really. As far as they was concerned, I was dead, really.
Yeah.
And I think I was dead. I just forgot to lay down. Because that's the way I felt. You know, that's the way I felt all the time. I felt like the Walking Dead, you know. I had my teeth kicked out and that when I was like stealing something out of someone's car.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just a road rage I did, but then I found out later it wasn't. It was because he seen me smashing his window and nicking his wallet.
Yeah.
But I mean, as I say, the impact for me was absolutely terrible because, as I say, I was robbing 3 or 4 people a day sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, and robbing shops. Like I never paid for any food or nothing. So the amount of people that got affected by my crime spree is unbelievable. You know. And
I think you have to ask for forgiveness for the trauma that you've inflicted, you know, along the journey, and make some kind of peace. But really the only thing left to do, I mean, I've helped thousands of people now. I know, you know, and it's all there behind us now. And you know, I want to continue to do that because that's really all that's left after that amount of damage. There's nothing really else you can do, you know, and you have to learn to kind of live with it and try and do the best you can in the world, I guess.
Yeah, and what I was going to, like the punchline bit, what I was going to say is like them 20 years was totally messed up. And now I'm trying to work in the community to stop other people messing up. And like to try and put all my mess ups right in a way. Yeah. You know, so as I say, by trying to help other people, hopefully it stops them from like going through all that trauma and pain I did and misery, you know. As I say, I didn't speak to no one at all for 11 years. Anyone in my family and my daughter, and then my daughter's now having to go at me for you ain't been in my life forever, because she doesn't remember from the first 5 years.
Got you.
And the first 5 years, probably 2 or 3 of that, I was in jail anyway. Exactly the same. I've lost relationship, lost my marriage, you know, as I say, relationship with all my family. Like now, they're all coming back now. You know,
that must be nice.
Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, it's emotional, definitely. But they're still in the madness, so I can't wait to get away from it once I'm down there.
Right.
They all still have they're just like a drink and that, like the rest of the people, really.
Yeah.
But obviously, I can't be around too much of that because it makes me unwell very quick.
Yeah.
And I notice that now. That's the good thing. I notice my behaviours go long, but I don't obsess about drugs, and I don't never think about that. But I notice now how my behaviour goes wonky very quickly. And like even being around all them people that I was brought up with, and now I'm thinking, well, they're all driving about new Range Rovers, they're driving about in this, like I could do it myself, and why am I struggling up here? So my head goes quite quickly that way, but then I just can't wait to come back here now. It's like I found where I need to be. At this stage of my life, I'm in the right place.
I think the devil always rattles the cage. You've just got to learn to keep it locked.
That's right, yeah. And that's what I've had to deal with. Like, I went down to see my sister for a week over Christmas, and I even got a train back up here New Year's Eve because I didn't want to celebrate it with them, because I just needed to get away. Because, you know, yourself, just being around a bunch of pissed up people when you're sober is not nice, is it?
No, it's not.
At the best of times.
Yeah.
You know, and and they was all like, why are you going home New Year's Eve for? I said, I just want to get back to my dog. Brilliant. And that's all.
Tell us about the dog.
Oh, yeah. Well,
pets are important, aren't they? I mean, there's a common theme development through the
it's quite kept
so
me
far.
quite straight, as much as I think I would have kept straight anyway, but he's definitely kept me on a straight and narrow, and he keeps me, like, I love to go out partying now, still dancing and stuff. I love dancing for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, I never used to. I used to think I had to pop a pill to go dancing, but now I enjoy dancing sober and I love it. But I get home from work or get home from doing something, and then I just look at him, sit, and I just think, I can't leave him tonight, and I just stay at home with him. So he's kept me grounded.
Fantastic.
Big time, he has.
And what's he called? What is he?
He's a Alpha blue blood bulldog.
Oh, lovely.
And his name's Hugo.
It's quite a posh dog, eh?
Yeah, well, but he's the best dog I never wanted. Like, that's Gary's little one. That is, I kept that when he said because he ended up with a dog the same as sort of me.
Yeah. Tell us about your dog, Gary.
A friend of mine, a good friend of mine, sadly lost our daughter, and the dog was our daughter's dog, and he's from London. He's from North London.
Has he got an accent, the dog?
He certainly couldn't understand mine when he first came, because he wouldn't come back. But he obviously really big connection to Nev, my friend, through Azra, who sadly died. And so obviously she was really upset. The dog had nowhere to go. I said I'd look after him for a little bit. That was nearly 3 years ago. So I always say he's the best dog I never wanted, and he certainly is that. I feel very blessed for having him.
Yeah, he's a beautiful dog as well. Mine's the same. He's lovely.
That's fantastic. So you brought a little something in. Did you bring a chip in?
Just a year. That was like a big thing to me.
Yeah, it's just over your shoulder there. Tell us about that. What have you got?
Yeah, that's just my year chip, but obviously a lot. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's just a year chip. That was like a big. I don't collect keyrings no more.
Yeah. Did you used to collect keyrings?
No,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
No, but I used to collect all the keyrings, like the recovery keyrings. I used to collect the 30 days, the first day, then the 90 days.
Yeah.
But they never kept me clean.
Right.
Know? So, like, this was a big one. I thought once I get to a year, then I'll stop collecting them. You know, because it never kept me clean in the past.
Yeah.
But now I do a lot more work in recovery now, like for myself, not like do work in recovery.
Yeah.
But
you work on yourself a lot more.
Yeah, and they say, oh, you only need to read 4 pages. I'll do an hour in the morning. But on audio. So I do more than what I should do. But as I said before, I'm dyslexic anyway. I can read a book and it don't mean nothing to me, you know. So audio wise, it gets in. Only a little bit gets in every day, but it gets in, and all them little bits add up, don't they? In the end, you know. So yeah, I'm in the best place I've personally, mentally, health likewise. I'm in the best place I've ever been. And I used to race motorbikes when I was a kid. From 5 years old till I was 30, I used to race motocross bikes every week. So I was quite fit anyway, and I always used to train for that. I used to go swimming one night, then exercise the next night, boxing the next night. But now I just feel so healthy and so and I'm probably not as fit. I probably couldn't run as far as what I used to be able to, but I just feel so healthy and clear-minded, and that. It's just an amazing feeling, isn't it?
It's brilliant. So quickly, let's wrap up then. Tell us about the work that you're doing at the moment and what it means to you personally as well.
Well, I do a number of things. We've got a supported housing company, and that's grown, due to the housing crisis. So I love that work. I love giving people a home, somewhere to be, and just to help them get in the driving seat of a new life. We often hear, I want my old life back. So I often say, actually, dear, because your whole life kind of wasn't all that, as mine wasn't. So there's that work. And then work within the prisons, that's grown. It's unbelievably a lot of prisons now under contract to move and do that kind of work. And yeah, just for me, it's the giving back and what I get from it as well. It's not totally selfless, because it fills me with love, and it helps me to care about me as well. And it's a real pleasure to be part of someone's journey, to watch them, such as Billy, to see where they were and where they are now, and what they're doing. It's magical, really. I feel very blessed.
Brilliant. And what do you get out of the work, Billy?
Well, I just want to just catch the last little bit with Gary, because I always try and thank him, and I always send him texts how much I appreciate what he's done for me and all that. And he just says, you don't need to say that. Your thank you is you not getting arrested and going to prison, like in the last 4 years nearly. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, obviously I've been working with Gary now, doing work in the community, and hopefully, like I've started work doing maintenance only a few days a week for his company, and I obviously help out with the support side of things, and done a couple of the prison talks, which, like, you can't explain how amazing that feels, giving back and walking in there talking to people. As I say, I come out feeling 7-8 foot tall, and no money can buy that. I'm not money motivated at all. Like, Gary's not really money. I've seen the background with Gary and what he does behind the scenes and that, and I know he's not money motivated, and I know now why he's not, because I'm getting the feelings that he must get on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, because he helps out many, and I've only helped out a few.
Brilliant. And if you had a piece of advice for someone to finish off, a piece of advice for somebody in your situation, say 10 years ago, what would that be?
Just don't give up. Don't give up. Just keep trying, and hopefully the penny will drop.
Brilliant.
But there is a life beyond your wildest dreams if you want it, and don't just sit there talking about it. You've got to put in action whatever you do. So, like I've always said, you only get out what you put in, no matter what you're doing in life.
Fantastic. Gary?
In the words of Bob Dylan, one of my favourite songwriters, just to keep on keeping on. And if you want change, it is possible. And if you want freedom, then it's possible. And to look for the right help, and to not be afraid to reach out
and ask,
and ask. And
that's a big thing for a lot of men anyway, isn't it? Because of our egos and pride.
Yeah.
We don't want to reach out and think that we've been defeated in anything, but it's no shame in asking for help, mate, and we need it. A lot of us suffer in silence.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't do. And I still struggle now, but not with people like Gary now and like some of his support workers. I tell them everything and talk about everything. But before that, I wouldn't have opened up to anybody and admitted defeat, really. And even though I'd look in the mirror at 8-9 stone, like a little proper, junk rat, and I still thought I was all right, and I still wouldn't admit to it. For years I wouldn't accept it, and that kept me in the madness for longer than it should do.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks very much, gents. I think we'll finish there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Brilliant.